Good day, everybody. Welcome to this open day also from my side. I am part of the faculty here at the KLU. I am Professor of Leadership and Organizational Behavior, and my name is Niels van Quaquebeke. Now, I know that you're at a business school, so you're going to study a lot about business, but as part of a business school, we actually have different types of faculty, and one of those faculty is me. I'm also different. My background is as an organizational psychologist, but I teach you about leadership. Why do I teach you about leadership? Because I have an issue with leadership. From a very young age on, whether it's my parents, I rebelled against my parents. Then I had my teachers, I rebelled against my teachers. I worked on construction sites, I worked in the kitchens, I worked for AOL, which used to be a big company. I worked for strategy and management consulting. And I always ask myself, why do I have to follow that person, that leader, or supposed leader, that manager? It really was a problem for me, for many of the leaders that I encountered. Why would I have to follow them? So as you do as a psychologist then, you say, research is me search. So I went on a journey trying to identify what is my issue with it, and is it my issue, or is it actually the other's issue? I'm looking at you right there, exactly. All right, so we're gonna talk about this a little bit, and as you already see, I'm starting my talk with something that is actually very leadership-like. It is the following quote that some of you might actually know. It's from Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, from Le Petit Prince, and he says, if you want to build a ship, don't drum up the men to gather wood, divide the work, and give orders. Instead, teach them to yearn for the vast and endless sea. And I think that's a little bit the essence of what I want to come down on today, that it's not about management. Management is drum up the people, divide the work, and so on, but it's actually about leadership. And leadership is something else, and that's what I want to get at today. We're going to talk about this along the following agenda. We're probably not going to cover everything. Unfortunately, I only have half an hour with you here, so we're going to go with it and then see at some point people are going to give me a sign that I have to get off stage, and that's where I'm going to stop. All right, so let's get right into it. On the essence of leadership and why it's different from management. Leadership is actually defined by followership, meaning if you're leading but nobody's following, that means you're just taking a walk in the park. The essence of leadership is that somebody is following you. So if nobody's following you, you cannot define yourself as a leader. You might be trying to manage other people, but you're not leading them. So in the scholarly way, we define it as the ability to influence other people, motivate them, and enable them so that they can and will contribute to the goals of the collective. Now, let's talk about that a little bit. How can you do this? How can you create this type of followership? And maybe let me ask you, if I want you to do something, what do I have to do with you? What do I have to give to you?
You have to give me a reason.
A reason. What would be a reason for you to work for me? All right, very good. This was not actually synchronized, but let's reframe it. I got to give you bling, right? There is a certain something that I need to give you, usually some monetary incentive that makes you happy in order for you to sustain your life. And that makes sense. And then let's say, maybe the person next to you, or maybe you, money doesn't cut it for you. So no matter how much money I throw at you, unfortunately, you're not doing what I want you to do. What else can I do with you now? No, behind you. Sorry, I might be cross-eyed a little bit here. Oh, purpose. All right, you're way ahead already. Okay, maybe you don't have to study here anymore. No, I was getting at punishment, right? If I don't give you money, something else I could do is actually punish you. And I see plenty of parents here in the room. They know how this works, right? You either work with the pocket money or you say, no, you got a timeout on the stairs. Okay, and then there is the third one, which is actually where you say, no, you got to do it because that is our roles. That's your job description. Here, these are the robes of the Supreme Court in Germany to say there is authority within the job description or within your role. Meaning as a parent, you say, well, you got to do what I say because I'm your father. By the way, I have 3 sons, so I try that a lot. But that's where we're now getting at. I try that a lot. What is the issue now? Let's say, you, mister, I gave you bling, right? At a certain moment, that wears off. What do I have to do with you now?
If I'm now in the structure, there is a contract that I should follow because if not,
Okay. But it's not working for you yet. So the bling that I give you, the money that I give you, doesn't cut it anymore. What do I have to give you? You're already far, far ahead. No, think in terms of a more regular employee. The regular employee would say, well, if it's not bling, what I need is bling bling, right? I need more. I need more money. And that is the essence of many of our work as well, right? We are there and we say, well, if you still want that I don't work 9 to 5, you actually got to give me a pay raise. You got to give me an incentive, a bonus, whatever. And that's how people think they're getting motivated. And then there is this lady there who says, well, money doesn't motivate me, it's just punishment. Sorry, you said purpose, but for illustrative purposes, I'm doing this. For anybody who's not motivated with money, but maybe through punishment, at a certain time, punishment also wears off. You know this also with your kids. If you give them a timeout on the stairs, you notice that at a certain moment, they don't care anymore. They're like, yeah, all right, I'm going to go to the stairs because I know that's my timeout, but they really don't care anymore. It doesn't have an effect anymore. So what do you have to do there? By the way, this is not parenting advice. You go one level more extreme again, so you go from punishment to more extreme punishment. And we also see this in companies, right? That companies dial up the notch a little bit on the types of punishment and structures that they put around people in order to put them into a corsage that doesn't give them any opportunity to do anything else. And the last one was just this authority based on the role. Here the issue is, if you want to escalate, you can't. You can stomp with your foot on the ground and say, but you have to do what I tell you because I'm your boss. But at the end, there is no further escalation. So as you see with these types of forms, we actually call them management forms. And this is reward power, punishment power, and a legitimate power. They have their natural ends. They escalate to a certain degree, and the escalation at some point doesn't lead anymore. Because I can't pay you more, I can't punish you more, I can't stomp my feet even more on the ground. They have their natural end. So this is management by and large. And if you worked at management consultancies or are part of big companies, you see that that was the model for many decades, that's how they tried to lead you, manage you. Here's your salary, do what we tell you. If not, we're going to punish you. And by the way, there is your job contract. If not, you're going to have our lawyers in front of your door. So that is a dead end. Instead, what we should be talking about is leadership. And here's a nice quote from John Gardner. Leaders conceive and articulate goals that lift people out of their petty preoccupations and unite them in pursuit worthy of their best efforts. And that's what was already alluded to, purpose. Give them something that they can hope for, something that they aspire to, something that they feel like they want to be part of because it makes their life better, and maybe making other people's lives better is part of that mission. That is leadership. And purpose, yes, we've heard a lot about it over the last 10 years. It's been this hyped thing. But what does it actually come down to? Well, it comes down to the following. And this is Barack Obama when he was still running for president. And he said, well, ultimately, it's about words. And let's listen to him.
About words not mattering, the most important thing that we can do right now is to re-engage the American people in the process of governance, to get them excited and interested again in what works and what can work in our government, to make politics cool again and important again and relevant again. Don't tell me words don't matter. I have a dream, just words. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, just words. We have nothing to fear but fear itself, just words, just speeches. It's true that speeches don't solve all problems, but what is also true is if we cannot inspire the country to believe again, then it doesn't matter how many policies and plans we have. And that is why I'm running for President of the United States of America. And that's why we just won 8 elections straight, because the American people want to believe in change again. Don't tell me words don't matter.
Okay, for a German, that may be a little bit alienating because we have our issues with these more charismatic speeches, but he has a point. The point is, words matter. Words matter in leadership because they give us this dream, this hope that we aspire to achieving. And he listed 3 of these examples. The first one being, I have a dream. And I'm pretty sure if I ask you here in the room that 99% of you would know this is from Martin Luther King and his speech. Very, very powerful words, that my children should be judged by the content of their character and not by the color of their skin. Very powerful words. Now we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. Very powerful words. Declaration of Independence of the US. Or last, we have nothing to fear but fear itself. Franklin D. Roosevelt in his inaugural address amidst the Great Depression. Words, these matter to lift us out of their preoccupations. And that is ultimately what gives us purpose. So let me talk a little bit about that, why that is so important. We are insanely inattentive to how important communication is at the job. You go to regular business schools and they teach you all about accounting and marketing and finance and so on. But if you look at what actual managers do, or hopefully one day leaders, is communication. They don't sit on Excel or Access or Word and so on. Most of it is actual communication geared towards other people. So it's about, depending on the level, 70%. If you're at a lower level, it's usually 60%. If you're at the highest level, it's somewhere between 80 and 90% of a manager's job is communication. Why do we invest so little into the communication of leaders? We do it a little bit different here. But if you now say, well, but I don't hold these speeches at my company. No, that's true. Communication is not just the speeches. It's also all the little meetings that you have. We have a gazillion meetings. We have all that email traffic. We have our lunch meetings or just regular informal lunches. And we have a gazillion telephone conversations as well. All right, this was just an attention check. Whether you're actually following my presentation, you should be seeing that he's here holding it upside down. Okay, so next one. Communication. Hopefully you're now buying into the notion that communication is key, because communication is so vital to transporting a vision, and vision is ultimately what can motivate people beyond just the incentives or the punishment or the mere authority of your role. So we should devote a little bit more attention to how to communicate properly. And that's where we're getting at to right now. Let's talk about visions first, because this is what people usually affiliate with leadership communication. And I'm going to walk you a little bit through it. For one, if you come from Hamburg or Germany, you might know Helmut Schmidt, former chancellor and also senator here in Hamburg. He said, "Wer Vision hat, sollte zum Arzt gehen," which means those who experience visions, they should see a doctor. Which is somewhat ironic because he actually had loads of visions for Germany. He was the architect of some of the biggest deals that we struck in Germany, multilaterally and internationally. But everybody else can put it a little bit less cynical and says, well, visions are really an idealized, novel image of the future, which fundamentally communicates identity, who you can be in that future, including issues such as norms and values. And here you see example, Martin Luther King, right there at the Lincoln Memorial. We have other examples here in Germany. The German reunification, a huge vision of post-war Germany, that one day it would be possible that the two parts of Germany would be united again. It seemed fantastical. You could have asked anybody in the 80s whether that's possible, and everybody would have said no. But that's still the governing vision of our politics. And one day it happened. You have other visions, like Nelson Mandela taking over after the apartheid regime in South Africa, and actually thinking of not a black nation, but a rainbow nation, a nation where everybody comes together. And he worked really hard to make that possible. If you want to know more about this, watch the movie Invictus. It's a very nice storytelling of what happened in Nelson Mandela's reign. Or we have this. Does anybody know what this is? Let's ask the audience. Yes, you, sir. Apple headquarters. Okay, I didn't point to you, but I guess again. Apple headquarters, exactly. Apple headquarters in Cupertino. And here again, we would say there is vision behind that. They're envisioning with their gadgets a very different way of interacting for us. And this is a headquarter for them because they're also envisioning a very different way how they work with each other. It's a campus, it's enclosed. People are supposed to work there like at a university on a campus, talking, having ideas with each other. And if you just watched the keynote of Apple, you saw that they just launched a new device, the iVision Pro device, which again will probably usher in a new age of how we're going to work with each other. So vision is something very different about the future, something novel. Why are we, or should we be interested in it from a business school perspective? I mean, you could say, well, Niels, this is all interesting, but these were all politics or Apple, we're no Apple. Well, if you look in the research, we care about it because we care about the outcomes. It's not so much that we care about the vision, but because there is an instrumental value. One is, with visions, you actually get more commitment from people. You also get more what is called OCB, organizational citizenship behavior. So people really feel like they're part of the organization. You get sacrifices from people. So they actually invest more resources than they usually would do for any job where they just receive pay. And last, probably most important, we actually see better task performance. People are more diligent because they feel this is my company, my vision, so they actually put in more effort. So if you then look into the business administration literature, what that says is, well, if you want these outcomes, you need certain, what we call mediators, certain things that need to happen within a person. First of all, you need to be able to direct attention towards the vision. It needs to be easy to comprehend. There should be a certain emotion that's being aroused. And there's memory and elaboration. So whatever is happening, it should be so salient that you're committed to memory and you will remember it later. And then it goes on and says, well, in order to have that, in order to get there, we need certain ingredients, which we call independent variables. What do you need to do? In terms of the content, you should speak in terms of analogies, metaphors, stories, because if you use these, it's actually feeding those mediators and thereby getting to the outcomes. You should also use what is called rhetoric devices. So contrast, list, puzzle solution, position taking, repetition. Works wonderfully, really what we call charismatic techniques. And last, delivery upright. Like I'm standing here, vocal variety, eye contact, active gestures, mimicry, and so on. If you do this, so the business administration literature says, you actually evoke the mediators and then the outcomes. All right, I brought with me a video of Phil Davison, who's running in this video. It says campaign speech to become Stark County Treasurer. And let Phil speak for himself, and you can judge what type of job he's doing in communicating.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Stark County Republican Party Executive Committee, good evening. And thank you not only for your attendance, but for allowing me the opportunity to speak. My name is Phil Davison, and I am seeking our party's nomination for the position of Stark County Treasurer on November 10th, November of 2010, excuse me. In terms of my background, I am from the village of Minerva, where I am serving my 13th year of elected service as a Minerva Council member. In terms of education, I have a bachelor's degree in sociology, a bachelor's degree in history, a master's degree in public administration, and a master's degree in communication. In terms of elections across Stark County, I have represented our party twice on the county ballot, in both the primary and the general elections, when I ran for Stark County Clerk of Courts in 1996 and Stark County Commissioner in 2000, and I will not apologize for my tone tonight. I have been a Republican in times good, and I have been a Republican in times bad.
All right. This is by no means, if you're watching from far away, by no means I want to do any Republican bashing. I feel the Republican Party has plenty of good things about them as well, similar as the Democrats. It's just that this video is too beautiful to not show you. All right, so Phil Davison. Phil Davison has a master's degree in communication. So you saw that he's actually using a lot of the things that I told you to do. And in fact, when you look at it, if you look at what is being done to you, if you introspect a little bit, yeah, he got our attention, all right? And yes, it was easy enough to understand, like we remember the different master's degrees that he has and what he's running for. He also evoked some sort of emotion in us. Maybe not the emotion that he wanted to evoke in us, but he certainly evoked some emotion in us. And last, unfortunately, he's also being committed to our memory. So this is hard to forget as a video. But will he get any of this out? No. I don't think if you're working for Phil Davison that you actually feel more committed or want to make sacrifices or are going to stay longer on the job or have more creative ideas. So something is not wrong, is not right with that model. And by the way, for those who are interested, Phil Davison was not elected after his speech. I followed up. But he ended up as being one of the most funniest videos on YouTube, and he later got an advertisement deal with Volkswagen where they just collected all the people with the funniest videos. And in plenty of leadership lectures, apparently, as well. All right, but let's go back to this model. So something is flawed with this model, and you will, when I presented this to you, probably most of you were nodding, and it's like, yeah, that all sounds right. No, it's not right. It's too simplistic. And this is what we're going to get at. So let's take a different perspective on this from psychology. We're going to stay in the same logical structure, but tweak a little bit the angle here. First of all, let's just change the outcome. So we basically care about two things. One is motivation, and the other one is action. So one is you want to do it, and the other one is you will do it. That is what we actually care about. And then what is important as the mediator? What needs to happen inside of you? It's not emotion, it's not attention, just that. It's something else. In psychology, we call it the notion of possible selves, a version of you that you can imagine in the future, something that attracts you because it's so positive. Let me walk you through some research. So for instance, if you can give kids, when they're in school, the image of themselves of actually being good in math, even though they're not, but if I can do that for you, something magically happens. So let's just take you two in the middle there. I can just talk to you and tell you, yeah, your grades don't show it right now, but I see every bit of a good problem solver in you. The way that you approach a problem, the way how you structure it, you got to figure it out. You have a mathematical brain. It doesn't show in the exam yet, but don't worry about that. We're going to get there. That's just the translation error that we currently have. But you actually have what it takes to be great at math. Don't let anybody else tell you something else. Now, they've done these experiments with kids in school. So half of the kids got this treatment, the other half didn't get this treatment. Lo and behold, what do you see? And math, most of you would say, is a pretty objective assessment form at the end, right? There is a right and wrong. It's not like German where you can write a lot of stuff. So I've done that with you, and I haven't done that with you over here. What we see is actually that the grades on this side significantly improve in math. There's also a spillover effect, by the way, on other parts, but especially in math, which points to the fact that it's really about math, not just a self-esteem thing where I just raise the self-esteem, but more a specific thing. If I can give you an updated version of your future self, you can actually buy into that and it becomes an attractor. There are different examples. For instance, I can say to you, for instance, this young gentleman here, I see you have every capacity to be a triathlete. Actually, the way that I look at you, your athletic build, you know, if you would just ditch the hamburgers and fries, you can probably run professional triathlons. And by the way that you walk, I saw you earlier, the spring in your step that you have, that speaks to the muscle that is already within your body that actually makes that possible, that you need in order to cycle, but also run and so on. You see him smiling already. He likes that vision. Okay. To the extent that I'm believable, what is now going to happen with him is that he's like, that's interesting. I never thought of it like that. But he's going to entertain that notion of himself as being that professional athlete. And what we actually then see is that people change lifestyles if I can internalize that somehow in you. So you have a more healthy lifestyle, you eat better, and you're also deliriously happy when you take your bike to work. So it is about the mirror that I hold in front of you and tell you, this is the future that I see for you. And by the way, this is not a picture that I've drawn, this is you. It's a mirror of you. I'm just distorting the mirror a little bit so that you see a version of yourself. So you will now already say, well, Niels, this sounds all a little bit fantastical. Yeah, that's true, because you need qualifiers to that. One, there needs to be a certain balance between change and congruence. If I tell you something that is completely outrageous for you, so let's say you're weighing right now 150 kilograms and you're 150 tall, and then I tell you, I can see that you're running a marathon in a month. That doesn't make sense. That doesn't have anything to do with you. I show you that picture and you're looking at the picture and say, no, that's fake. That has nothing to do with me. So instead, I need to actually look at you, who you are, and then distort it just a little bit so that the change still has something to do with you. And that's what we call congruence. There needs to be a link. The second one is it needs to be the right mix between abstract and concrete. So I need to give you a big label, who you can be, like the professional triathlete, but also what that would entail on the concrete side, changing your lifestyle in terms of your diet, exercising in the morning, not partying all night, and so on. So that is abstract and concrete. You need both parts, because if you only have one, if you have the concrete without the abstract, you don't have an idea for what I'm showing you. If I only give you the idea but not the concrete, you don't actually know what to do. So a good vision entails both. And now I'm going to get to the last part. And I'm also saying this because I'm already getting the signal here. The last part is that humans are motivated fundamentally by two different motivational systems. Some of us are motivated always to reach for the stars. We love it. The entrepreneurs amongst us, the startup people, and so on. It's always reaching for more. Risk doesn't matter because we want to seek that fulfillment. Then there are others in us that are more concerned about not falling down. It's like risk here is actually the big one. Who cares about the stars? You can fall really deep. I don't want to do this. I just want to stay afloat. And now I said, you have one or the other. Obviously, you have both inside of you. You will feel both of these tendencies within you, both of these motivational tendencies. But by and large, some people have that one side stronger and the other side stronger. So here, you would have the startup people, usually the entrepreneurs. Here, you would probably have people that work in insurance or in bureaucracy and administration, because that's their job, to keep things safe. You don't want to screw things up. So here the issue is then, if we have these two motivational systems within us, what can we do in our visions? And here, a colleague of mine, Don Stam from the Rotterdam School of Management, he did a nice study. It's a scenario or an experiment. What he did is he ran an experiment with 4 groups. First of all, he told everybody in this room, you're part of a transportation company. And then he told half of the people, this side here, you're in crisis. Things are not going well for your company, you are in survival mode, and so on. And this side of the room, he told, you are in the prosperity mode. Everything is great, you're generating a lot of revenues, and so on. But what he was really interested in then is he gave them 2 types of vision approaches. The one was the approach. So the front side of the room, I gave an approach vision. Come on, we can do this, we can overcome this, we can get more clients, we can get more projects, and so on, and gave you this vision approach. We can reach for the stars. The other side, I also give a vision approach. It's, come on, we can do this. We can stop the leakage. We can stop losing clients. We can stop doing that, and so on. We are going to survive. You see, both are vision approaches. Both have this, come on, we can do this. Only here it's reach for the stars. Back there, it was like, let's not fall down further. And then he looked, what is actually more effective? The results are the following. So if we just look inspiration, but inspiration then trickled down also to task performance and other items, and we look at it in the prosperity and crisis situation, and then we look at the vision approach. So one is the approach, reach for the stars, versus avoidance, do not fall down. We look at what is more effective. In prosperity, it looks like avoidance is more effective, but we're not here at a strategy consultancy. The difference is actually not significant. So do not interpret this. If you see bar charts, don't be fooled by it. Without a statistical test, whether there is significance, they mean absolutely nothing. Here, they mean absolutely nothing. There is no difference. So when things are going well, it doesn't matter how you talk to people. They are going to be equally inspired. But let's talk at the crisis situation. And here you see a statistical difference between the two means. And that is, in crisis, you would think, well, if you're in crisis, you should talk to people where they are, which is like, oh, it's risk. Come on, let's not do anything that risks this anymore. But it's the opposite that's true. You should talk to them in terms of reaching for the stars. Come on, we can do better, we can do more, and so on. That is what inspires people in that type of situation. And I think we have plenty of examples in our world where we do it completely wrong. Whether we look at our political parties in Germany in crisis, and suddenly they get into this risk communication. Whether we look at the European Union, again, crisis, and they get into risk communication, that's not what we need. That's not what appeals to us psychologically. In times of crisis, we need strong visions where we reach for the stars. Okay, I told you already, I'm not going to get through. People are also getting mad at me here in the front. What would usually happen in a lecture, a more extensive lecture, is I don't obviously stay just with the visions. We're also going to get to the more mundane level. What can you do in terms of actual day-to-day interactions? What can I do day-to-day with you? And one very important factor as a leader is how to ask good questions and listen so that it motivates the other party. But if you want to find out more about that, I guess you have to start studying with us. All right, thank you very much.